Welcome to Entrepreneurs International Network, where entrepreneurs learn, network, and grow. I'm Roger Killen, the organizer. Today, Leanne Marie Webster is training us on how to get leads and clients via email marketing. Leanne, I have got 3 questions for you, and your answers will help us to get to know you at a personal level. Number 1, what is something that you are incredibly proud of, yet rarely have the chance to brag about?
That I taught myself how to swim when I was 12 years old, and it was so I could go down the swirly slide at the pool.
Wow. Okay. That's unusual. Thank you for sharing. Second question. What is one of your special talents? Now, one of your special talents outside of the workplace.
I'm very, very good at doing on-site race operations. It's like running races. So like I just did Rocky Run, and I do the finish line, make sure everyone gets a water and a medal and all that stuff.
You have got some very unusual talent. Okay, let's try the third one. What quality do you think successful entrepreneurs must cultivate?
Absolutely resilience, because nothing ever turns out the way you think it's going to turn out.
Resilience is your answer. Okay, great. Participants, would you please turn on your video? It gets a little lonely from Leanne's perspective, talking to a bunch of black boxes for an hour. So enable her to engage with you as much as possible. Second request is please stay muted and type any questions you have into the chat. As about every 10 minutes, I'll pose these questions to Leanne. That way everyone will get their questions answered by hook or by crook. Now you're going to be sent a link to the recording of Leanne's talk. It'll take me a couple of hours, but nevertheless, I encourage you to take notes, because the very act of taking notes is going to increase what you absorb, and do so by as much as 30%. Leanne, are you ready to knock our socks off?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
You take it away. The stage is all yours.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm really, really excited to be here tonight, and I can't wait to see what we're going to discuss. So I obviously have my things, and I would love the questions. I know Roger's going to help me with that, but I really would love to make this as applicable to you and your situation as possible. So please, please, please ask me lots of questions. All right. Okay, so whenever I think about email, I always think about that first thing in the morning. I don't know about you guys, but I have this great morning practice. I get up and I meditate, and I do my gratitude journal, and I exercise, and I have breakfast, and I have this really nice, calm, and beautiful way to start the day. And then I open my email box, and it's like remember this record sounds like that wasn't a good sound of it. You know what I mean? It kind of like, wow, our email boxes are full. And this is one of the things that I know sometimes gets people to not do email marketing, is because they think the email boxes are already full. I don't know how to stand out. I don't know how to make a difference. And so they just don't do it. And if you did that, or if you think that because the email boxes are full, it makes you think that you should invest your time in social media or in other platforms, you'd be making a big mistake. And so what I want to share with you tonight is why and how you can leverage email to get your clients and to create more leads. So one of the things I also want you to think about as we're talking tonight is I'm really all about the energetic of email, and really the energetic of anything we do in our business. Because what I have learned and what I know from experience is, as my colleague says, one of my colleagues says, the energy with which we create guides and determines the energy of the creation. So one of my goals tonight is to help adjust your energy around email. Because I find a lot of times people will, they don't like email, they're doing email because they feel like they have to do email, and they hate email, and they hate all emails, and they rock. And guess what? If you're sending out emails from that perspective, you're probably not having a very good experience with email, because it's it's out there in a way you don't want it to be. So we're going to talk about that tonight, but I want to just plant that seed in your mind about the energetic of it. So what we're going to cover tonight is why your email list is more important than your social media following, how often to email your list and what to say, the structure that you need in order to effectively run your email marketing, and then what it means to email with heart. Email with heart is my approach and my point of view for email. So we'll walk through that. So I always start with why. Why do we care about email? Email, I like to think of email versus social media as email is kind of like that phone call, that direct line to your person. And social media is more like that billboard on the side of the road. You put the message up there, you hope the right person drives by at the right time and that they look up and they take in your message. And the truth is, you don't know if that's going to happen. You also own your email list. Nobody can get between you and your email subscribers, which is really different from social media. Because I know social media, the algorithm changes all the time. Who sees your post changes all the time. Even from, I had just this week, I had one post that I did and it was like 250 people saw it. And then I had another post that was very similar, at least in structure, but only like 4 people saw it. And the challenge with that is, there's no way to stay ahead of the algorithm in a way that's going to let you have some confidence that you're going to be able to reach your people. Also, as we experienced just a few weeks ago, sometimes they all go down at the same time. Remember about, 6 weeks ago or however long it was, Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp all went down. And I was talking to one of my colleagues and she was like, oh, wow, that never happens. And I'm like, no, actually, that's happened already a couple times this year. It happened a few times last year. And in all cases, I knew people who were in the middle of launches and they were dependent on their ability to reach their audience with these platforms. And when they went down, they were out for the launch that they were doing. Unless you had an email list, which if you had an email list, which I don't know about you, but I saw a lot of messages that came through that were all kind of like, how do you like social media now? Don't you love email? And it was kind of like, we don't really need to rub salt in everyone's wound. But the point is, you want to make sure that you can reach your people without relying on someone else's access. Don't build your house on rented land, as one of my clients likes to say. Do we have any Tim? I can see some people. Do we have any Tim Ferriss fans in the group? I can see some hands. Tim Ferriss, yeah, I love Tim. Tim is well known for the 4-Hour Workweek. He's a multi-New York Times bestselling author. He's also been called the Oprah of audio because he has one of the most downloaded podcasts of all time. I like to think of him as my future husband. He's not aware of this yet, so we'll keep it as our little secret. But anyway, Tim, even with all of those books and with all of that, he still says email is the most reliable broadcast media method. So if it's good enough for Tim, I say it's good enough for us. And what I noticed about Tim is if you'll watch his, I don't watch his Facebook posts as much, but on Instagram, I noticed that he will promote lead magnets or content, or he'll have ways of trying to drive his social media audience over to his email list. And then he leverages the email list for books, for his podcast, and for all kinds of different things. So some people think this means I don't like social media. It's not that I don't like social media. I like it just fine. I just want you to use it in addition to your email and not in place of. So understand the results and the things that you'll get from each different platform. All right, and these are just some stats because instead of thinking in a vacuum, I like to bring it home with some stats. This is looking at social media versus email marketing. 37% of consumers say they don't trust social media companies with their data, versus 75% of consumers are willing to share their data with a brand that they trust. Brand that they trust is key there. 30% of millennials engage with a brand on social at least once a month, and 73% of millennials identify email as their preferred means of business communication. This one always surprises people because I will hear a lot, millennials don't like email, yet there's a lot of millennials that do like email and do actually prefer it as a communication method. And then many of us, this is myself included, struggle with how to determine the ROI from our social media. You know, what's really driving results? Do we know what's driving results? And with email, email has an ROI of 4,400%. So I think that number sounds pretty darn high. I haven't experienced 4,400% in my own experience, and yet I do have a six-figure business, and I do get 55% of my business from my email list. And I rarely make offers to my email list. So I'm going to talk about all that tonight, what that looks like and how to do that. The other thing with social media, of course, it's going to go down. All right, here's what I know from email. Email will bring you relationships. It will get you speaking gigs, if that's what I love speaking gigs. That's one of my things. And it will grow your business, absolutely, your bottom line. So, all right, a little bit about me, since we're going to spend some time together tonight. I have produced more than 115 virtual events. This is part of how I got my feet wet in the whole email list building world and virtual world. I have a bachelor's in journalism. I am an attorney. Don't hold that against me. I've got more than 20 years experience in coaching and in marketing and business development. And I taught myself how to swim. I never get to talk about that. I actually really love that question, Roger.
While you're loving me, are you open for a question from me?
Of course, I love it. Yes.
So Daniel has asked, what about LinkedIn? Is that considered usual social media like Facebook or Instagram?
I would put that in the social media bucket. I do think that the great thing about LinkedIn is it has more of a business audience. And so if your audience is comprised of more, you know, executives or managers or C-level executives or things like that, then I do think it's a good place to play. And I still put it in the social media bucket because you can't control the audience. You know, you're still on somebody else's platform and you're still at the mercy of how the algorithm is going to work in terms of who you can reach.
Thank you. No further questions?
All right. Thank you. All right. So my first way that I got exposed to email and fell in love with it was my first formal business, which is, I feel like I'm going to sneeze. Pardon me. That never happens when I'm speaking. Sorry. Okay. Was speed dating. Is anyone familiar with speed dating? I don't see any hands. Oh man.
None of us will admit it.
No, I know. They guys are either lucky or shy. Speed dating. So I was the first person to host a speed dating event outside of the Jewish community. And I used to have the largest speed dating company in Southern California. So my coach always laughs at me with this picture. She's like, "What was it, the 80s?" I'm like, "No, it was 2001." And I still love that shirt. So anyway, so what I learned with the speed dating company is we built up this database, 20,000 subscribers. We would send out our schedule and our events would just sell out right away. And email was the primary way that we ran the business. And so, you know, I ran that business for a number of years, and then I ended up going back into corporate. I did marketing and business development for international law firms. And 10 years ago, I started my current business. And the original iteration of it was called Busy Girl's Guide to Running. So I was a motivational coach for women runners. I started running late in life. I've got a whole story about that, which we won't go into tonight. But when I started this business, I knew that I wanted to build my email list because of that experience that I had with the speed dating company, which, by the way, we had 20,000 on our list. And this was before Infusionsoft and MailChimp and all of that. I had an Excel spreadsheet with 20,000 names, and it would take me hours to send the email out. And when someone unsubscribed, it was before they had the little link at the bottom where you could just click and unsubscribe. I used to have to Control F to like find the person's name and cut them off of my list manually. Technology's come a long way, thank God. So anyway, I have this business and I knew I wanted to build my email list. And so I've had this video series, and I would go out and network, and people would come up to me and say, oh, yeah, I was on your website and I saw how I can give my name and my email. I get that video series. I really love that. Can you help me set that up? And I was like, oh, okay, sure. And after a year, I organically had all these business clients, and I didn't have any running clients. Like, no one was coming to me for the running. So I switched the business. That's fine. And I created what has now become Email with Heart. And what that looks like is helping people to build, grow, and nurture their email list. I live in Chicago, as Roger mentioned. I love Chicago, and I am a runner and triathlete and an Ironman. So which I have crazy stories about that. So if you ever want to chat about that, then I'm happy to do that. I've got the tat to prove it. Okay, let's turn to Email with Heart. I'm going to walk you through my system. Heart is an acronym. I created Email with Heart because I wanted to change the conversation around email marketing, because I found that too often the conversation was build the list as big as possible through any means possible, and then pummel people with messages until they break down and buy. And that doesn't recognize that there's a person on the other side of the @ symbol. It doesn't recognize that email is really all about building relationships. It's not about, being manipulating people into doing something that they kind of don't want to do. So that's what my approach is all about, and that's what the structure is all about. All right, the H in Heart is for how. And this is the feeling that we want everyone to have when they receive your email. Wouldn't this be wonderful to have them say, yeah, I'm so excited to hear from this person. I can't wait to read this email. I can't wait to read what they say. Too often we don't have this feeling when emails come in, by the way. And the reason is there's a lot of sloppiness I've noticed with how people get on your list. So how many of us, I can see a decent number of you, how many of us have been to the networking event where you pass out your business cards and then all of a sudden you end up on someone's list? Can I see the hand? Which you did not intend for that to happen. Or anybody have on LinkedIn had somebody scrape their email address from LinkedIn? So there's a way to do that. They sometimes stop and start how your ability to do that, but there at times is a way to take all your first degree contacts and scrape their emails, and then all of a sudden you end up on someone's list. Also not intended. Or I've noticed a lot of this happening lately, where you're just in a one-on-one colloquy with somebody and you're talking perhaps about your businesses or perhaps working together or something like that, and then all of a sudden you end up on their email list, and it's not what you signed up for. Or I even had one about a month ago, I've never experienced this before. I went to a networking meeting, so excited that we were in-person networking again. It felt so nice. I met these other two women, and we all served the same audience, but in a different way. And so we said, oh, we should get together and brainstorm and how we can support each other. I was like, yeah, that's great. And the woman pulled out her phone and set this meeting and shared the meeting notice with me and the other gal. And the third person took our email address from the email invite, from the invitation, and added us to her email list. I was like, oh, why did you do that? I have a nice email that I send to people when they add me to their list without permission. I always hope they just don't know any better. All right, it's not just annoying, it's actually illegal. All of those things I just described are illegal. They're a violation of the CAN-SPAM Act. I can't remember what the act is called in Canada, but I know it's a violation of that one too. You can do a direct email to somebody, but you can't just add them to their list without their permission. And here's the bigger issue though. When people do that, you know them, but you don't like them or trust them. And we've all heard this saying, you do business with those you know, like, and trust. So what I will suggest is, if you're careful with the how, which I'm going to talk about the permissive way now, if you're careful with that, then you can build that know, like, and trust factor from the very first interaction that you have with folks. I love this quote from Maya Angelou. I always believe if you know better, you can do better. Now, some people know better, but they don't care. Those are not my people. What I care about are the people who really earnestly want to build their list in a way that will generate the best possible results, and they care about spamming and about being conscious about how people get on their list. So. All right, so this is the structure that I recommend for permissively putting people on your list. So you'll see across the top, I have all the different ways: your speaking, your networking, your social media, your outreach, your direct contacts. I recommend leading everyone to what I call a permission page, also called an opt-in page, a registration page. The key here is there's some free content that you're going to give them. The jargony term for that content is called a lead magnet. I call it just a freebie. We'll go through what that can be in a moment, but I just want you to see the structure. So they go to the page, they enter their name and their email, then two things happen. First, they go over to a fulfillment page where they collect that content. And then second, the information gets passed to your email platform. This is your MailChimp or Constant Contact or Simplero, Infusionsoft, whatever you're using. That triggers a 3-email welcome series. And then after that email welcome series, they're kind of on your regular email list for regular content. So super simple structure. And what I like about this is you can test different lead magnets, but you can use this structure in multiple ways. I'm going to walk you through that right now. Everybody's with me? Yeah. Okay. All right. Lead magnets. Boy, this is where I know people get stuck, man, because sometimes we feel like the lead magnet has the thing has got to be like the dun 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 coming down off the mountaintop with the tablets, like the most incredible piece of content you've ever created in your whole life. And it doesn't have to be all of that. It can really be something simple. Marie Forleo is a great example. Do we have any Marie Forleo fans in here? She's got a multi-million-dollar coaching business, and her lead magnet is an audio. Now, you guys could go out tonight, you could take your phone and you could record an audio and have a lead magnet. Like, it's just that simple. It could also be a checklist. That's what I've used, this Ultimate Summit checklist. It's my old branding, but I've used that to add hundreds of people to my email list. Checklists are kind of cool because it lets people, it gives, somebody can take it, they can implement what they're going to do, or they can take it to somebody else to help them, or they can call you and say, if you know how to do all this, maybe you can help me actually do it. So those are a nice lead magnet. It can be videos, you can do events, you can do summits. That's part of, that's one of the things that I specialize in, is helping people do summits. That's kind of like a big lead magnet. Or you could do one-off courses. You can do quizzes. Quizzes are really, really popular. I don't recommend doing a quiz until you're a little bit, unless you're a little bit farther into your business, so you kind of have enough content of how you want to divide your avatar up. But if you've got that and you want to put a quick quiz together, that's a great thing to do. People love learning about themselves. And the upper right-hand corner, I've got a infographic, which is just another way to deliver content in a different way. It's a little bit more visual. What I recommend that you do for your, if you're looking for what could my lead magnet be, just think about what are the first, couple of steps that you take with a new client, or what are the things when someone asks you what you do and you tell them, what are the questions that they always ask you about, or what's really, we always start with like the problem that your client has, your potential client has. So what is it that's keeping them up, or what are they worried about that you can deliver in an easy piece of content that can help them solve their problem? And I've got some other examples from what I do, and I have a thing called Lead Machine Lab, and these are some examples of what we created actually in the lab. And this is my client Julie. She's a money coach, an intuitive money coach that want more income and impact. And it's a simple video with a PDF that she created. This is Man Camp. This is one of my clients, Albert. He has the 3 conundrums of achievement. He's got a PDF, and then he's got an audio that goes with it. Very, very simple. This is another client who has a Spanish speaking audience. And she teaches them finance. So this question is, should I save it or spend it? And so she's got a worksheet there, and then also she added a video to go with this as well. And then there's another client, Marianne, who created, she's got this whole kit. So she's got some videos, she's got a difficult conversation guide, and then she's got, I think, an audio that goes with it. And Marianne has used the structure that I just showed you and used her lead magnet initially to add 1,300 subscribers to her list. Then she did a summit, so she added almost another 900 to her list. And she's using her email. People love her email. She's fantastic at writing topics and just staying out in touch with people. And it's grown a lot organically because people like it so much they're sharing with other people. And it's helping her build her business. So the keys with all of these: easy to consume. You'll notice all of those things were super easy to consume. Solves a problem that the client has, and then ideally it will create another problem. It's that problem solution path. So we want people to, because we want the next problem they create, of course, to be something you can solve with one of your services. So here's a great example of, well, a great, man, that's kind of egotistical, but here's a good example of a lead magnet, my lead magnet. I call it your Lead Machine Essentials kit. And Roger, if you could put the link in the chat, that would be awesome. This gives you that overview that I showed you. And then it also gives you the checklist of everything you need to create what is on that overview. So we'll walk you through, and it will also show you, if you want to see in real time how all of this works, you can go over to the leadmachineessentials.com. You'll see the super simple landing page, enter your name and your email. You'll get redirected to the page where you can collect it, and then you'll get my welcome series. So if you want to see in real time how all of this kind of plays out, then I invite you to consider doing that. All right, how are we doing, Roger? Do we have any questions? Or
I confirm that the link is in the chat. I also confirm that you're being so thorough that we do not have any questions. So
that's
back
great.
to you.
All right, I know they're coming. I know they're coming.
Oh, Ishita is saying the link is not working. Oh, there's an S missing from the link. HTTP, we need an S.
Shouldn't for that one. You shouldn't need an S for that, because that's not, because it's a redirected domain. It's a vanity URL.
I'm going to try it myself. It says this site cannot be reached. Check if there is a typo in leadmachineessentials.com. There's a period after com.
Nope.
There shouldn't be.
No, it should be just .com, and then that's it.
Then that might have been my mistake.
I can't have a tech fail on my.
No, there's no period after com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can't. Maybe, hang on. Maybe you could type it again into the chat, the link.
Yeah, let me, hold on. There we go. I can get in there. Okay, to everyone.
And worked for Forrest. So it's working for some of us and some of us not the others. Okay.
All right. It should leave machine essentially. You should be able to just do that. Not for me.
Have you typed?
You shouldn't need to add the HTTP. Hold on. All right, if I stop sharing for a hot second, I can go grab it. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right, let's see. All right, goodness gracious. There we go. Lead machine essential.
Barry is saying if you'd leave out the www, it works.
Oh.
Forrest is saying, where are you from? Forrest is asking everyone where you're all from. Daniel is asking Forrest, where are you from?
Huh.
And Forrest is saying Chicago, Chicago as well. Leanne?
Oh, yay, I love it. Well, here, I'm going to give you another link since we're doing that. Let's see. I'm going to put a different link in here. I know that one. So maybe there's something funky with my vanity URL. There's another one that I put in there. I know that one works. Oops, that's not where we're going. There we go. All right. Whew. Maybe you can keep that other one handy, Roger.
A couple of questions
Apologies.
slipped in. Angela wants to know, I'm a family biographer, so a simple PDF is okay, like how to prepare for your interview?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And what I'll invite you to consider is, well, yes, because your business is to help them, if you're a biographer, to help capture that biography, right? So it's like something that will help them prepare. I guess the question is, would someone, before they know they're going to do the biography, would they need something else, right? Because if they're getting the interview guide, they already know they're going to be interviewed for the biography, but is there like a thing before that? I'll invite you to think about that, right? Because we want to get something that's going to lead them on the path to hiring you to help them do the biography.
Lynette wants to know if you would show the 3 keys again.
Yep.
And Jerry wants to know what the cost of the email operation setup is.
The cost of the email operation setup.
I think he's talking about MailChimp, LinkedIn, Constant
Got it.
Active Campaign.
Yeah, so thank you. So that will vary depending on your platform, and most of the platforms will charge you based on how many contacts you have. The cost per month can be anywhere from free. There's a free version of MailChimp, although I don't really like MailChimp as my favorite. It's not my favorite platform. So what I invite you to consider doing is looking at another one and pay just a little bit. Like Active Campaign is $19 a month. It's even lower if you pay for the year, if you have less than 500 contacts. And a lot of people starting out, of course, have less than 500. So Active Campaign is one of my favorites because it's great deliverability and they give you a lot of bells and whistles for even just that $19 a month. It can get up to a couple $100 a month when you start getting into programs that have a lot more bells and whistles, and if you have a lot more contacts.
Afshin, who is from Toronto in Canada, asks, can we send email without their permission in the US legally? Is there any anti-spam legislation there in the US too?
There is anti-spam legislation. It's called CAN-SPAM Act. And so it's okay to send a one-on-one email communication with someone, like, for example, with the networking situation that we talked about. You met someone at a networking event, you exchange business cards. You can send them one-on-one an email that says, hey, it was great to meet you. Thought you might like my 10 tips to build your business or whatever. Here's a link, right? Give them a link to your lead magnet, then they can go get on your list. What you can't do is take that email and add them to your email list and then just start sending them, your weekly email blast. That's the part where it violates CAN-SPAM.
Lynette wants you to talk a little bit more about creating another problem, which is the 3rd bullet of the 3 keys.
Got it. Well, actually, I'm going to show you this with my example. So let me show. So I talked about this Lead Machine Essentials Kit, right? So this tells you what you need to create for your overview. Then it shows you the checklist of what to create. So my next thing is Lead Machine Lab, which is my primary offering. Because now that you know that you need to set up the structure, and now that you have the checklist of what to include in it, your next thing is, I need to actually set this up. So you could take that checklist, you could hire a VA, you could hire an OBM, you could, go find someone to help you execute it, or you could say, Leanne seemed pretty cool. Let me see what her lab is all about, because in the lab is where we help you set all that up. So that's what I mean by creating the next problem, right? Now I know that I need to do this. Now I know a little bit of how to do it, but I need help with actually doing it. That makes sense?
Candy asks, a friend was strongly recommending I use bit.ly.com to send, the question is to send a long link by email. I think what she means is bit.ly.com to take a long link and shorten it and send it by email. And her question is, do you also agree?
I actually don't like using Bitly links because Bitly and I can't remember the other one. There's another one that's the same idea. It's shortened links or makes them prettier. The challenge is a lot of spammers use them. And so a lot of times if you use a Bitly link, then the email that you're sending gets caught in the spam filter because they're thinking that link might be leading somewhere nefarious. So what I recommend instead is if you have a WordPress site, there's a WordPress plugin called Pretty Links. And that lets you create any link off of your domain. So like Leanne, ein.com/tools or whatever. And you can create that and you can point, works the same way as a Bitly link. You can point that link to any other page that you want, but it won't get caught as much in that spam filter.
Great. What is the name of that plugin? Asks Karen.
It's called Pretty Links.
Can you spell?
Yeah, it's pretty like Pretty Woman.
Pretty link.
Yep, Pretty Links. There we go. Pretty Link. And it's a WordPress plugin. And there's a free version of it. And then there's also, but the free version will give you everything you need. I have a developer version. Even the developer version was, I think, only like $30. So, so you can do a lot with the free version.
Okay, another question. How many lead magnets would you advise someone just starting out to have?
Start with one, figure out what works with that, figure out what doesn't work, figure out if it's driving the people, bringing the people in that you want to bring in, and then you can start tweaking it from there.
No further questions. Back to you.
All right. No further questions. You sounded like an attorney there, Roger. You were like we were getting deposed. Okay. All right, the E in heart is for engaging content. And this is, again, where a lot of people get tripped up, right? What do I say? What the heck do I say to my list? I always like to think about this variety as kind of like this stand at the farmer's market, right? There's vegetables, there's fruit, there's all different things. One of the reasons people tune out from emails, and we all experience this, is if what they're getting is the same thing all the time. That's when people start to get bored. In fact, let's take a moment here to just think about, I know all of you, with all the emails that we have in our email box right now, all of you have emails that you don't have to open, right? Like it's not from a client, not from a prospect, not your Amazon order confirmation. You don't have to open it, but you do open it. Pardon me. So think about, why do you open that email? Why do you open the email you don't have to? Maybe you could put that in the chat. Roger, can you help me with what people are going to put in the chat? Why do you open an email that you don't have to open?
Well, the first one is mine, and that is the subject line.
Yep, good subject line. Yes.
Intriguing subject line. Free item, sense of urgency, FOMO, gift value. Tagline is attractive. Tagline, I think, is the subject line. Sense of urgency. Habit.
Habit. I asked this the other day and somebody said, so I can unsubscribe.
Subject line interests me with topic. Seems to be a lot of subject line.
A lot of subject lines. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. And one thing that I kind of hear under all of that is that you think it's going to be valuable, right? It's interesting that the subject line tells you there's going to be something on the other side that you want to read, that for whatever reason, right? Sometimes it's just to put a smile on your face. Sometimes it's get, some tip or something that will help you with your business. So keep that in mind as you're drafting your emails. I always think of this as that, it's that what's in it for me question, right? What's in it for the person on the other side to open up and read that email? And here are just some ideas of content that you can send out. You can invite them. I just sent out a couple emails inviting people to this talk. So you can invite them to speaking gigs that you have, virtual or in person. You can send out tools or tips. If there's apps that you use all the time or that you discover, if there's a little bit of software or a manual or a book or something like that that you use and or that that your clients or prospects will use, you can send out a little blurb about that. I do quotes sometimes. Sometimes it's just as simple as there's a quote that I find that inspires me, or a song that inspires me, or something that I hear that I think will have relevance to my audience. And so I'll send that out. And then I have also the Skim on here. Do we have any Skim fans? Anyone know what this? Nobody? Okay, the Skim. The Skim is a, it skews a little young. I'm definitely not the target market, but it's a Monday through Friday, and it's a digest of what's happening in the world. So, and I don't watch the news, and I don't read the news, but this keeps me on top of what's happening. And the reason I have it on here is because about a year ago, Marie Forleo interviewed the founders of the Skim, and she talked with them about why did they use email as their chosen platform to deliver the product instead of social media. So it had a lot of great discussion around email, the power of email, why they use email. So I pulled a couple quotes from that, and I talked about the Skim, why I like the Skim. I pulled a couple quotes, and then I just linked over to the interview. There was 2 third-party endorsements of my point of view and of what I'm working with my clients on. So look at that. There's easy content that you don't have to create the whole wheel, right? You can just create something and tell people why you think it's relevant, and then send them a link to it. Always giving attribution, of course, but this is a great way to come up with easy content. And you can use your content across all the platforms. So we don't need to come up with separate things for all the different social media platforms, or separate things from your email. Take your email, you can chunk it up. You can put part of it on Facebook, you can put a bit of it on Instagram, you can add a visual, put it on add a visual, put it on Instagram, put it on LinkedIn, pieces of it as an article, you can put it on your blog. Nobody is consuming you across all of the platforms. And even if they follow you on all the platforms, I guarantee you, they're not going to go, wait a second, she put that in her email today too. What's up with that? Nobody's doing them. So leverage it across all your platforms. And most importantly, think about, I talked about this a little bit earlier, just that energy with which you're sending things out. It feels very different. I know it's a little wooey, but it feels very different on the receiving end to have someone send a message that's like, this is a product that I really hope people will buy. So I'm gonna make an offer to my list. I'm gonna explain why it helps them, how it helps them, explain the results that they'll get. And I really want to encourage them to buy it. That feels very different from, they better buy. This is, really, I really want to, sell X number of units or whatever. It feels very different on the other side. And so what I want to encourage you to do is just tap into that kind of, it's a little bit of a softer approach, but I will say it energetically drives different results. All right. Let's talk, yeah. All right, A in heart is for authentic voice. This is the UBU. I love this quote from Oprah. If I knew, I had no idea how much being your authentic self could make me as rich as I have become, I would have started earlier if I could have. So the thing with this is stepping into you being the fullest version of you. There was a time when, especially the lawyer side of me, would never have had this obviously photoshopped, awkward photo of me sort of hugging Tim in a weird way, because I would have thought it seemed not professional, or it seemed a little weird. And the truth is, I'm kind of quirky. I'm a little bit of an oddball. If you don't like this, or if this somehow is like, you're like, I don't know, it seems a little strange, then we're probably not going to get along really well. And that's okay. I'm not trying to work with everyone and their mother. I'm just trying to find my people. So the more that I have stepped into my voice, my kind of quirkiness, my, being more me, the more not only has my business grown, but I've had a heck of a lot more fun with my clients. And to this end, I really want you to be careful with templates. Templates can be great in the sense that you're not starting with that, what I call blank screen of death, right? You're not, sometimes you get stuck and you're like, I just need a starting point. So sometimes it's tempting to get a template or to borrow language from someone else. But the key is you really, really, really want to adjust the language of it so that it sounds like it came from you. So that you're not, because it's on the receiving side, if it's not adjusted, then it can feel disjointed, and it can be like, I don't understand what's going on here. And someone might not be able to articulate it, but it'll start to degrade that trust factor, because they'll know that whatever was sent out didn't come from you. So this is why be careful with templates, and also be careful if you ever get promo copy or swipe copy or something like that. I see this a lot in the summit world, right? Because part of the summit world is that we create this kit and we give it to all the speakers, and all the speakers use it to promote. And every now and then, when we don't see the results being driven that we expect, the speaker will say, oh, well, that copy didn't resonate with my audience. And I'll say, well, did you adjust it? Like, it's just a starting point. Edit, 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 and make sure that your emails sound like they came from you.
Leanne, time for a question?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what the question is. What are your thoughts? This is from Barry. What are your thoughts about long email from email list? Don't know what bottom lib is by sending it out. Should email have a graphic or all text? I think maybe there's a couple of questions there.
I think so. So one question, let's hit the graphic versus text. Well, actually, for both the questions that I kind of heard in there, part of it does depend on your audience. What is your audience? Really tuning into your avatar, tuning into how they like to consume information, tuning into, are they going to have the time and spend the energy to read a longer message versus a shorter one? So that's one. And then graphics versus text. I like using a little bit of graphic, but not too much, unless you're like, a graphic designer, or you're an interior designer, you're in some sort of world that's very creative and very visual. And more importantly, your audience is in that world as well. So that's how I'd adjust that. Personally, I have my logo at the top of my email, and then it's pretty much all text. I break up the text with bullets or with a little bit of bolding, and sometimes I'll have a graphic at the bottom, but that's really it. I like to keep it clean.
No further questions.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. I will. All right. Speaking to one, this is another key that I always like to think of writing that email. The work that I do with my clients, we always start with who's your avatar and honing in on that. And I always like to think when you're writing as if you're writing a letter to your person. So always keep your avatar in mind, or your ideal client in mind, and write to that person. All of the email platforms that you can use will let you put that, put the person's name in the top. And so that helps it start to feel personal, but the rest of the way it feels personal is just in the language that you're using and how you're speaking. So for example, you wouldn't in a one-on-one conversation say, hey, you all know me, or something like that, because that would feel weird to say to one person. So when you're writing your email, don't write it using terms like that. Write it using like, me, or you blah, 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 not you all, or group words that reference being written to a lot. This is a great response I got to one of my emails, which someone saying, I know you're writing this to a group. I know you're sending this to thousands of people, but it still feels like it's just for me. And so he's responding to that kind of one-on-one feel. And then what's really cool is he's inviting me to do a speaking gig, to host a seminar for his business. And that's not because I've advertised anything about that. It's purely because he's responding to that one-on-one feel in my emails. All right, the R in heart is for rhythm. And the rhythm meaning, how often should you email your list? I get this question a lot. And what I see happening sometimes is people coming from a very good space don't want to be that person that emails too often. And so what they do instead is they go on the other end of the spectrum and they don't email enough. So, and this monthly is what a lot of people starting out will go to. And what happens with monthly is it's not quite enough, because people will forget in between those messages that they signed up, or who you are, or what you're all about. And that will cause your unsubscribes to go up. So what I want to encourage you to do, if you're kind of just getting your feet wet and just getting started, is send at least twice a month, because that will give you enough consistency that people won't forget you between messages. And that, by the way, is only 24 messages in the course of the entire year. And I'm going to guess that you got 24 things to say to your subscribers. If you can get it up to weekly, weekly is just a little more consistent, and it frankly gives you a little more wiggle room, right? I do weekly, and every now and then something happens, or I get tied up, or I'm traveling, or whatever, and then I can't send the message out. And that's all right, because if I send it 3 out of the 4 weeks of the month, then they won't really miss the one. So I've got enough consistency built up that I can kind of take a break every now and then when I need to. So think about this in terms of what makes sense for your audience. The other thing to think about with your audience is the question I get a lot, which is, what day and time should I send the message? And when people ask me the question in that way, I know they're waiting for me to say, like, all right, Wednesday at 3 o'clock is the magic day and time. And the truth is, there's no magic day or time. There's a magic day and time for your audience. Think about, when does your audience have the problem that you can help them solve? And so they'll be most receptive to your message. And I'll give you 2 examples just so you can see how this applies in the world. I have a client who's a dating coach. She works with single professional women. She has found that Saturday morning is the best time to send her message, because Friday night, because first of all, they're not working, right? So they're professionals working mostly 9 to 5. Saturday morning, they're not at work. They also did or did not have a great date Friday night. They do or do not have a date coming up on Saturday. If they had a great date on Friday, they want to know how to get another one. If they had a bad date, they want to know how to make Saturday night date better. So they're primed for receiving her insight and advice and figuring out how to apply it. By contrast, I have another client who works with parents of autistic children, and she has found that weeknights, I think she likes Wednesday night, weeknights at 9 p.m. is the best time to send. And that's because at that time, usually the child is now in bed and the parent is sitting down, having a little bit of time for themselves. They're opening their email and saying, how do I make tomorrow better? How do I make bedtime tomorrow better? How do I make breakfast tomorrow better? And so they're open to the insights that she shares about how to interact with their child in a different way. So tune into your audience for when they have, or when they're most open to the problem that you're going to help them solve, and will be most open to your content.
You open to some questions now, Counselor?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Gurjeet wants to know, can you share an example of an email you've written?
Oh, I've written so many.
That's what I would have thought. Barry wants to know, what are your thoughts if there is no one to reply to or no unsubscribe button? How do you get off the list again? Are these considered spam and breaking the anti-spam law?
They are, because in order to comply with at least with the US CAN-SPAM, there has to be an unsubscribe. There has to be a way for someone to get off the list. So there has to be a working unsubscribe link at the bottom of every email. And any email platform, legit email platform, will automatically put that at the bottom of the email. Like you can't send one through like MailChimp, Constant Contact, ActiveCampaign, Simplero, any of those without that appearing. If it does not appear, or if it's not a working link, that is a violation. It is spam. The challenge will be that it's hard to enforce. And so you can do your best to unsubscribe, or I usually, in that case, will just report them as junk, and then block the sender so that they can't come through again, hopefully.
And then Angela, do you bulk write your newsletters and send out on your schedule, or do you write each one before you send it out?
Great question. I write each one before I send it out. So I recommend keeping a home for your content ideas. So I, for example, use Evernote. You can use a Word document. You can use like a notebook, tab of paper or whatever. I use an Evernote, and I have an Evernote that literally has ideas that come to me. And the ideas come to me from questions I get asked, or sometimes I'll be working with a client and I'll say, oh, wow, that'd make a great email. And so I'll just put the list down. At the top of that document, I like to plan 90 days out. So I'll have the next 90 days, the dates for the next 90 days of when I'm going to email. Usually I'm emailing on a Thursday. So it would look like, 11/25, and then what is it, 12/2, 12/9, like have that. And then I'll have the topic that I'm going to send about. So for example, when I knew I was speaking here tonight, I knew that last Thursday I was like promo number 1 for the EIN talk. And then on, Monday I added one in and it's promo number 2 for the EIN talk. So I kind of do that. And then what I do is on Monday morning, I will say, all right, let me look at my list of topics. Let me see if I've promised to promote anything first, if that's going to be something I'll do, or if there's, for example, a masterclass or something that I'm hosting that I want to promote, or if not, and I'm just open for topics, then I'll look down my list of of the ideas that have come up and I'll say, what seems interesting? I want to talk about this week. And I'll write the email, write it on Monday, review it on Wednesday, fresh eyes, fresh, ideas. And also making sure that whatever I'm, how do I say this? Making sure that I'm in tune to what's also happening in the world. If it's going out on Thursday morning, I like to check it on Wednesday, just because, I saw when Australia was on fire, at the beginning of 2020, I saw some automated emails that came through or some other emails that people clearly had set up before and hadn't looked at closer to the time. And they were saying things like, set the world on fire, or other things like that, that just make you seem a little tone deaf, or seems a little inappropriate given what's happening. So that's why I always like to check it the day before.
No further questions. Carry on, Counselor.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Your Honor.
You're with us.
All right. And I'm watching time. I have about 10 more minutes. Is that right?
You do, yes.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So with Rhythm, the 2 mistakes that I see people making, one is what I call ghosting your list. And that's where, someone signs up for your lead magnet, they might get like one message and then you never hear from them again. Or the other one is what I like to call booty calling your list. And that's when you're only messaging me when you want something. Hey, I know you haven't heard from me, but I got a book. Now I want you to buy my book, sign up for my course, join my retreat, do whatever. Whenever I hear people saying, well, I tried to sell to my list and they just don't buy, or, I always say, well, how much were you offering, or how much were you interacting before you asked for the sale? Because if it just came out of nowhere, of course they're not buying. You haven't earned the right in the relationship to make an ask like that yet. But if you're consistently giving content and consistently building the relationship, then making an offer at some point is the next natural step to do. And by the way, I don't have anything against making offers or making, finding a way to earn revenue from your business, from your list. That's what I'm actually all about. It's just doing it in a way that makes sense and that doesn't burn your list out, and that actually makes it part of the relationship instead of something that feels really icky and salesy.
Question, at what point do you start sending marketing emails after lead magnets have been downloaded? So that's an interesting question. I like, even if you're doing a sales or a marketing email, I believe it should have content enough in it so that someone gets some form of education from even reading a sales message. And here's what I mean. Because what happens sometimes is part of this is that energetic, right? We shift into like, oh, well, here's a content email. And then it's like, oh, wait, I'm going to sell in this next one. And then it feels awkward and it has a really super different tone. And what I recommend instead is, even when you're selling, have content that a tip or something or some way to apply what you do, so that even if somebody doesn't want to buy, they've gained some knowledge from reading that email. And then you can sell. All right. And then let me circle back to the other part of the question. The structure that I recommend is the lead magnet. They get that welcome series. I recommend 3. You can have it be up to 7. It's really up to you. I like 3 though. It's a simple number. And then after that, they just get on your regular email list. And so with your regular email list, it should be a mix of content and then at times making some offers. So there's not a defined point because people are going to be rolling in all the time. Does that make sense? I'll take that as a yes. No further questions.
All right.
The answer is yes.
Okay. All right. The T in heart is for technology. And this there's a couple of different things that I want you to think about this. First is know your numbers. One stat that I want you to pay attention to is your open rate. So this is how many people do you message, and then what percentage of those people actually open the email. 12 to 15% is an average open rate. So I like to keep myself and my clients at 20, 25% or higher. Now, here's what's interesting. This 12 to 15% is for those, what I would call regular emails, the weekly or the biweekly emails that are going out. That email welcome series that I recommend that you set up, right? Those 3 emails related to your lead magnet, the open rates for those are often 50, 55, 60%. It's a very highly engaged audience. That's why that welcome series is so important, because people they've just signed up, they're interested in what you do, you're sending them what they asked for, like they're really engaged at that point. So you really want to make sure you have a strong welcome series. One way to get people to open your email, this actually came up when we talked earlier, why do you open? A strong subject line. So this is an example of 2 different subject lines. The first one's very utilitarian. I see this a lot. Event day 3, Mary Smith. That's not very enticing versus how to get a guy's attention in 6 seconds, which is Mary Smith's topic. So thinking again on the receiving end, what's going to be interesting to them to make them want to open? I like to think of this as both were sent by the same person. One is just a whole lot more attractive. All right, the second thing that I want you to pay attention to is the unsubscribe rate. Now, the unsubscribe rate, this is the one that hurts. It hurts. I do this for a living. I still sometimes will look at my thing and be like, who unsubscribed? Who unsubscribed? But here's the thing, let them go. If they're going to unsubscribe, you would way rather have someone unsubscribe, get off your list, than sit on your list and not open. Because when people are on your list and they're not opening at all, that's actually weighing down your deliverability. Your deliverability is how many emails actually go into the inbox to be viewed there instead of into the spam filter. And the easiest way I can describe this is there's kind of this, like, you build a reputation in the internet world around your emails, and the email platforms are looking at how many people is she sending to and how many people are opening. And if they're seeing that a lot of people aren't opening, they're like, she must be spamming. We're going to put her in the spam folder instead of in the inbox. So let people go. Go with love. That's cool. If they're not for you, that's awesome. Let them find their people and get off your list. All right. So that's the heart, how, and engaging content, authentic voice, rhythm, and technology. I love Tamara, and this is how I would love to have you feel about email, right? Every time I send an email, I make money. And to that end, if you want to have a chat about how to do this, how to apply what I've talked about, how you're using email, we can talk about your lead magnet potential. We can talk about whatever it is that will help you to up your email game. And so what I'd love to offer you is just a session with me, 45 minutes. I know you'll get clarity from it. I know we'll sort out your next best step, and there's no charge for it. So Roger, if you want to put the link, let's hope this link works.
I've put it in the chat and I've clicked on it and it works. So we're all
right. Whew, man. All right. I think I got 2 minutes left, right?
So we'll open it up for Q&A, or would you like to just have some closing comments?
Oh, I'd love some Q&A if anyone has any more questions. Yeah.
Any final questions for Leanne? Leanne, I'm curious, what actually is the service that you provide?
Oh, so thanks. So I have 3 main services. The first is my Lead Machine Lab. And that's where that whole structure that I talked about with the setting up the lead magnet, the technology and all that, in the lab, we actually help you do that. So we'll work with you on your lead magnet. We'll create it for you, set up all the technology, the web pages connected to the email, help you write your welcome series, and then get that set up in the platform as well. So that's one main service. The other one is doing those, producing the virtual summits, which that's a way to build your email list. And then finally, my Email with Heart Huddle is just a monthly membership where we read the tea leaves on all the stats that I was just talking about, and we share ideas on how to build, grow, and generate revenue from your list.
Beautiful. Now, Forrest has a question. How do you identify and remove people from your list who are not opening your emails?
Ooh, that's a great question. All of any email platform that you're in should have a way for you to do a search that says, identify the people who have not opened in 6 months, 9 months, whatever you want the interval to be. I would start, if you haven't done it for a while, I would start with somebody who hasn't opened for like 9 months. And then what I recommend doing is identifying those people, moving them to a separate list or tagging them, or however your platform, whatever you can do in your platform to identify them, kind of pull them out. And then I would send them a couple of emails that would say something to the effect of, hey, I noticed you haven't been opening. Here's this, I only want to send to people who want to get my stuff. And here's what you're going to miss if you don't stay on my list. If you want to stay on my list, click here. Then wait a few days, send another email, kind of similar, again, asking them to identify they want to stay on, and then say, if you don't do anything, I'm going to take you off the list and we'll be friends or whatever, keep it light. And then if they don't take that, if they don't step up again and get back on, then just take them off your list.
Shahan asks, what's the cost of your service generally for the lab specifically?
So the lab, there is you have up to 90 days to complete it, and includes a weekly meeting with me. And that is 3 payments of $997 or $2,500 if you pay in full.
Okay. Lots of accolades, lovely webinar. Self to say goodnight. What email platform do you use and why? Asks Daniel.
Daniel, great question. So I use an email platform called Simplero. So it's simple and then RO. And I use it, it's called an all-in-one. And so it would be comparable to like an Entreport or an Infusionsoft. And that means that it does the email part that we've been talking about, managing the list and doing tags and the automations and all that. And it has a shopping cart aspect. So I have a digital course, so I can sell that through Simplero. It also has a membership area, and it lets me set up that course. It lets me run the payments. It also lets me do affiliate things. So it's got a lot of bells and whistles to it. And it's fantastic. I've been in it for a couple of years. I'm a huge fan.
Yander asks, how can I sell massive email and where can I get them from? I don't understand the question. Maybe you do.
I'm going to guess that he means like, where would you get where could you buy a big list from, or how could you sell a big list? In which, if that's the correct interpretation, I would say, I don't recommend doing that at all. I don't recommend buying a list from anyone, because you never know. No matter what they say, it's really, there's no way that the person who gave up their information knew that they were going to end up on your list. I just think that's always a not very clean transaction. So I wouldn't recommend doing it. I like organic growth and speaking and using other ways to build your list in a more direct fashion. And I would never sell my list either. And in fact, in most places, it would be a violation of either CAN-SPAM or privacy or some other law to sell somebody's email address.
Leanne, we have to cut it off there. On behalf of EIN's 81,000 members, I thank you hugely for taking this incredibly complex topic and simplifying it for us. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. This has been a lot of fun.